Hello, everybody. This is Massa Washington, and welcome to the Massa Washington Show. Today is the fourth episode of our show. As usual, I am excited to be back with you to present to you analysis of breaking news through the week, major events happening in Liberia and around the world. The Massa Washington Show is a weekly magazine that will be given behind the scene detailed analysis of events making the news throughout the week. And today we will be looking at the following topics. One, today, November 12th, 2023, is the 38th anniversary of the 1985 Thomas Quiwonkpa abortive invasion that took place in Liberia. So we will be talking about that in details later. The second topic here will be, of course, the Liberian presidential runoff elections, which will be held on Tuesday, November 14th, just 2 days from now. I will be giving you some behind the scenes analysis and information on the both candidates, that is incumbent President George Weah and former Vice President Joseph Boyka. And we will be looking briefly at the Stanton Witherspoon sentencing. Stanton, a Liberian, the CEO of Spoon Network, was indicted. He was tried. He was found guilty of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and also wire fraud. He was sentenced a couple of weeks ago, and I will be bringing you some detailed information concerning that as well. And of course, every week I bring you as well a feel-good story. My feel-good story for today will be on or about a young lady who is so inspiring, who has inspired even me. She's a Liberian, she's doing great things, and we would like to highlight her as our feel-good story or inspirational person for the day. So get your popcorn, get your soda, just take your time, relax, and please stay with me for the next 1 hour. Today, November 12th, marks 38 years since the former commanding general of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Thomas Quiwonkpa, and also a former member of the PRC, that is the People's Redemption Council of Liberia, launched a failed coup attempt in Liberia intended to unseat the government of President Samuel Kanyado at the time. Mr. Thomas Quiwonkpa led the invasion, the abortive invasion, because it wasn't successful, it failed, on November 12th, 1985. And it was actually 1 month after the 1985 presidential and legislative elections. Samuel Doe declared himself the winner. That is, Emmett Hammer at the time, who was the Elections Commission chairperson, declared Samuel Doe the winner of that election. But the election is being documented to have been widely fraudulent, that it wasn't Samuel Doe who actually won that election. Rather, it was his opposition, Mr. Jackson F. Doe, who actually won that election. So technically, the elections were stolen. Samuel Doe rigged that elections, is widely reported that the elections was massively fraudulent. Mr. Thomas Quiwonkpa was former member of the People's Redemption Council, comprising 17 enlisted men of the armed forces of Liberia who stormed the executive mansion, that is the official residence and also workplace of the President of the Republic of Liberia. So in the early morning hours of April 12, 1980, 17 enlisted men, including the late Thomas Quiwonkpa, stormed the executive mansion. They did a coup, they killed the president, several other persons. It is reported that hundreds of persons died that night, about more than 100 persons at the mansion, and hundreds others throughout Monrovia, especially in the counties. So Quiwonkpa was one of those who was one of the 17 enlisted men, along with Samuel Doe, who became the head of the People Redemption Council. After that 1980 coup, Mr. Quiwonkpa was named the commanding general of the armed forces of Liberia, and he held that position. And in 1983, he had fallen out with Samuel Doe. He was demoted from commanding general and was accused by Samuel Doe and his government at the time. They actually accused Mr. Quiwonkpa of planning a coup against Samuel Doe. So, fearing for his life, General Quiwonkpa fled the country and came to the United States of America. This is Thomas Quiwonkpa you see here on the screen. He came to the United States and he was here seeking refuge. But in 1985, he was encouraged to go back home to attempt to remove Samuel Doe from power. Doe had become a powerful dictator and tyrant. There were a lot of human rights abuses rather under his regime by that time, and so he had become unpopular. By then, he had also killed several members of his ruling PRC, including Nelson Toole, Thomas Wesson, and the rest of them. So Mr. Thomas Quiwonkpa, according to witnesses who came to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to testify, including one of those who was actually a key member, also a leader in the abortive invasion of November 14, 19, November 12, 1985, Mr. Joe Wally. Joe Wally came to the TRC and gave his testimony as one of those who was one of the leaders of this Quiwonkpa invasion. According to Joe Wally and others, they entered Liberia, Quiwonkpa and his men, about maybe 25 or 26 of his men, but there were more than a little over 2 dozen men. They entered Liberia by way of Sierra Leone, and they came to stage the coup. Unfortunately, the coup did not succeed. Mr. Quiwonkpa went into hiding, and Samuel Doe was in hiding initially. Mr. Quiwonkpa announced that Samuel Doe was in hiding, that he was in control, but the military wasn't behind Mr. Quiwonkpa. Once he had announced that the President Samuel Doe was now caught, rather he was still in hiding, the military decided to continue fighting to protect Samuel Doe and the country. So Mr. Quiwonkpa, after the coup turned around, Mr. Quiwonkpa went into hiding. A lot of his members went into hiding. Some of the people who came with him went into hiding. Some of them were caught. It was complete chaos. And on the 17th of November, actually, Mr. Quiwonkpa was caught. Now, the story goes that he had actually committed suicide, that he killed himself, but the government of Samuel Doe claimed responsibility for having caught Mr. Quiwonkpa. So Edward Slanger, who was in the military at the time, I was in Liberia at the time. I was a young miss in my early 20s. I wasn't even 24 years old yet. I was there during that entire turbulent era. And I remember the show Mr. Quiwonkpa's Body on TV. We all watched it several times. He was already dead. Mr. Edward Slanger was standing on the body with his AK-47 rifle, and he had claimed that he was the one who actually had caught Mr. Quiwonkpa and had killed him. It also showed George Bode at the time, who later on became the warlord for the LPC rebel group. Mr. George Bode was also there, also standing over the body of Mr. Quiwonkpa. So Quiwonkpa was there. Later on that day, we saw on television as well, we saw when people had pieces of human meat and they said it was the human parts of Mr. Quiwonkpa. They had killed him and they had dismembered, him, and people were eating parts of his body. This was done in the public. We saw some of the footages on television. It was reported in the newspaper as well. You could see people with, what looked like human parts and human flesh openly eating it. And it was also reported by the international media, mainly the BBC, the VOA, reported that people were eating the body of Thomas Quiwonkpa. So those people who were allegedly eating his body were his opposition, quote unquote, his enemies. Some of them were rumored to have been soldiers, and some of them were rumored to have been members of the Kran ethnic group. But what was really awful is that when Mr. Quiwonkpa was caught and killed finally, Samuel Doe and his military seemed to have gone on a purge. Mainly, they launched this slaughter of people from Nima County, because Mr. Quiwonkpa was from the Dan tribe from Nima County. When he died, he was 45 years old when he died, so he was very young. And Nima County became like a slaughterhouse for Samuel Doe and the military, basically, members of the Crown tribe that were in the military. They started purging the military of people from Nima County. A lot of people who were in the military historically from Nima County were killed. Some of them went missing. Soldiers went up to Nima County, and it just went on the purge of eliminating people with ethnic background from Nima County. And so today, November 12th, makes it 38 years since Liberians experienced that other incident of extreme violence and gross violations of the human rights of other people. My next story is, of course, we are into elections mode. We had the runoff elections. We had the first election, presidential and legislative elections, just a couple of weeks ago. And this Tuesday will be the runoff elections with incumbent president George Manawia and opposition Unity Party of Mr. Joseph, former Vice President of Liberia, Ambassador Joseph Yeman Boycott. They will be facing off this Tuesday, November 14, in a round of elections that promises to be really tense. The first round of the elections were extremely tense. It was not only for the president, but also for legislative and senatorial seats of the Liberian parliament. So Tuesday, Liberians will again be going to the polls, this time to finally vote in that person who will become the next president of the Republic of Liberia. So we have incumbent president, His Excellency George Weah, and we have former Vice President Joseph Yuma Boyka, who will be facing Weah in the runoff. In the first round of the elections, President George Weah took the lead very slightly with 804,956 votes, representing 43.83% of all votes counted. Former Vice President Joseph Boyka came a very close second with 796,961 votes, equal to 43.44% of all votes counted. So you can see how closely it is. And the entire total polling places that reported in the first elections were 5,890. And that represents the total number of all polling places in Liberia. In my last show, I specifically focused on 3 counties that I'm calling the battleground states, battleground counties. And those counties are Montserrado County, Maghibie County, and Bong County. So when I did my analysis in my last show, I said that to be able to actually win this second round of the presidential elections, either candidate would have to have at least 55 to 60% of the votes in each of these 3, battleground counties that I just named. Excuse me. Vice President Joseph Boyka currently has a slight lead in Montserrado County, that is during the first round of elections. He has a first slight lead over incumbent President George Weah. So Boyka has 46.49% of the votes in Montserrado County, and incumbent President George Weah has 46.08% of the votes in Montserrado County. In Maghibie County, former Vice President Joseph Boyka took the slight lead with 47.08%, as opposed to incumbent President George Weah's 41.76%. That is in Maghibie County. And in Bong County, President Weah has about 6 points lead he has about 6 points lead over Vice President Joseph Boyka with 43.91% of the votes, compared to Boyka's 38.33% of the vote. And these stats that I've just read you are stats from the just ended first round of the elections. So they may be significant. That is, if voters are going to remain committed and loyal to still give their votes to these candidates. This may not change much. But if voters are going to be looking at other things, if they are going to be factoring in other things, the votes may change. And so these counties will still remain a battleground counties. But notwithstanding, the first round of the elections is over, and this is the runoff elections, meaning that everything is up for grabs, meaning that everything is starting from scratch. So just because you had a slight lead in certain counties, or you won a significant number of the votes in some places, doesn't mean that the same thing will happen in the run of elections for coming up this Tuesday. So every single county becomes a battleground county now for the candidates. A lot of the counties, but for some counties, you can most likely predict how they will go. Like for example, we can predict that Ambassador Joseph Boyka will still win Nima County because he has the Prince Johnson factor, and the votes that he got in Nima County the first round is just so significant. A miracle has to really take place for President Weah to actually win Nima County. We're not saying it's impossible, but we're just looking at the numbers and what obtained in the first round of the elections. Same thing can be said for Grand Judah County. Grand Judah County votes widely for President Weah and the CDC. So just as Ambassador Boyka won Nima County overwhelmingly, incumbent President George Weah won Grand Judah County overwhelmingly, even though uh, Nima County has slight more votes than Grand Judah County. But the thing is, uh, President Weah won Nima County, Grand Judah County overwhelmingly. And of course, he took all the southeastern counties. So we can predict that Grand Judah County will again go for President George Weah. Nima County will go for Ambassador, former Vice President Joseph Boyka. We can predict also that Lofa County will go for President Joseph Iman Boyka in terms of he will have the most votes. And we can also predict that the southeastern counties, most likely than not, will be voting again for President George Weah. But it's anybody's guess as to how Montserrado County will turn out. Right now, Ambassador Joseph Boyka has a slight lead in Montserrado County. We know that it has a significant amount of the vote. We also know that Bomi County voted for Ambassador Boyka, and Grand Cape Man County also voted for Ambassador Boyka. Anything could change. They could vote for incumbent President George Weah this time around. Magibi County could change. The votes and the percentages of the votes in Magibi County is just a slight margin. So President George Weah could win Magibi County. He won Bon County before. So the point I'm trying to make is that both candidates seem to be really strong contenders in these national elections, and it's going to be a tall order for both persons. However, I would like to say that looking at closely looking at the elections and all of the side issues and everything that's surrounding the elections, Ambassador Joseph Boyka, who is former vice president, seems to be the favorite going into the elections from the first round of the elections, and even now going into the run of the elections. He seems to be the favorite to win, meaning that a lot of Liberians who feel disenchanted with the CDC government of President George Weah tend to be speaking very loud about wanting Joseph Boyka and why they want him to be president. But notwithstanding, incumbent President George Weah seems to be the most practical candidate for winning the elections. And I will explain what I mean. So, former Vice President Joseph Boyka seems to be the favorite going into the elections. He's actually the underdog because he's the opposition who is trying to unseat President Weah. And President Weah is the president, he has that power. So he's not, I don't consider him the underdog here, even though he's fighting to retain his presidency. But Joseph Boyka will be considered the underdog because he doesn't have the power and he's trying to get the presidency. But Boyka seems to be the favorite going into the elections. But George Weah seems to be the most practical to win. And this is what I mean when I say that. A lot of members of the opposition and other people, including independents who are not happy with the CDC and the WIA government, they tend to favor Vice President Joseph Boyka. They think that he will do better. And so they tend to favor him best. He's elderly. He has experience for many, many years as a public servant. I think he's worked in government for 50, 55 years. He's worked in various capacities of the national government. He seems to have worked through several different administrations. He was vice president for 12 years under the administration of former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And people tend to think that he's a mild-mannered individual. He's unassuming, he's quiet, and he seems to be peaceful. People like that about him. But the Unity Party has its own problems and baggages. For example, the second, uh, the second and most important highlight on the ticket is from the Prince Johnson's party. So the vice presidential pick for Joseph Boyka is Mr. Jeremiah Cohn. He's a young man. He's from Nema County, he's a senator, but he's representing the party of infamous, most notorious warlord, Mr. Prince Johnson. According to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's final report, Prince Johnson is listed as the most notorious warlord, and many of his atrocities and gross violations of human rights are all in the public purview. People have read his story, they've seen his actions of the gross violations of other people's rights. For example, there is a video that shows Mr. Prince Johnson interrogating Miss Wata Allison, the wife of the late Defense Minister Grady Allison. And within that exchange, on the video, you can see he slapped her. He gave her a back slap so hard, he asked her a question. And she was saying she didn't know she was sick. She was not here when a lot of the things were, she was not there when a lot of the things were happening that her husband was accused of. Prince Johnson slapped this woman so hard, her glasses fell off her face before he ordered her execution by one of his rebel soldiers. So those kinds of videos and those kinds of things that are out there in the public about Prince Johnson doesn't make him look good. And he being a key ally to the vice president, former vice president Joseph Boyka, does not make Vice President Joseph Boyka's ticket look good at all. The international community is concerned about Prince Johnson coming so close to the presidency. He's also on the sanction list. He was sanctioned by the United States in this pay for play. And so that is one takeaway from Ambassador Boyka. Another takeaway is this big fallout with this young man, Henry Costa. Costa is talking all over the place. He's saying some things that are completely shocking. We don't want to believe a lot of what he's saying. But notwithstanding, even if what he is saying are all lies, they still don't look good. They still don't look good at all for Vice President Boyka. And we are hearing as well that Vice President Boyka in this second round does not have the required or the kind of resources that he would need to actually pull this thing off. So I spoke to an inner circle member whose concern is that they may be constrained. Some of the inner circle members, the executive members, may be constrained to actually serve as poll washers because they don't have enough money to pay the poll washers. And another person told me that most likely than not, the Unity Party may not be able to field poll watchers in some places that they might deem not so significant. So if what I'm hearing is true, again, this has not been confirmed. I've just spoken to some insiders and this is what they're saying. I guess it's their opinion or it's their suggestion or it's their fear. But if what they are saying is anywhere near the truth, then the boycott campaign is in trouble going into the runoff elections because you need the resources to be able to pull this off. Every single, you have 5,000 and what, 5,000 and it is something polling stations. Every single village, every single town, every single city, every single county's votes are extremely important when you have an election that is so contestable, that is so close. So to think that a campaign may have to ration its resources and poll workers, that a campaign may have to be constrained to not field poll workers in certain areas, but then focus on areas that they consider most significant. I think that's going to be foolhardy. That is going to be a recipe for disaster for the broadcast campaign. So let's just hope that these are all just unsubstantiated rumors. We hope that the Unity Party will be able to have the kinds of resources that it needs to be seriously competitive in this run of elections. So here is why I'm saying that President George Weah may not seem to be the favorite for winning the elections, but he seems to be the most practical to win these elections. And the reason I'm saying this is that President Weah still has that uh, finesse. He still has that star quality. He being a former soccer star and a celebrity, a world celebrity, people still gravitate towards him. President George Weah, after all this time, still holds the hearts of a significant percentage of the voting population of Liberia. Those people who, during the days of the war, when they saw nothing but darkness, they saw nothing but despair, those were the days that George Weah was in Europe playing soccer and making all this history that made Liberia good. Actually, during those dark days of the Liberian War, the name George Mane Weah was the only bright star coming out of Liberia at the time. And owing to his patriotism, everywhere George Weah went, he didn't say, I'm a citizen of France, I'm a citizen of the United States, or I'm a citizen of Italy, or I'm a citizen of the United Kingdom. He always said, I'm a Liberian citizen. He was patriotic, he loved Liberia, he toted the Liberian flag. Even when he won the Golden Ball, George Weah brought the Golden Ball back home to Liberia and presented it to Liberia. I was there, I covered that event at the executive mansion, excuse me. That was during the administration, the interim administration of Amos Sawyer of the interim government for national unity, IGNO at the time. When George Weah brought the Golden Ball back home to Liberia, he brought some white people with him. I think it was Kyle News from Australia team also came with him. I was one of those journalists who was at the executive mansion that day at that program to see George Weah present his Golden Ball to the Republic of Liberia. And we all tear up because we thought it was so patriotic what he did. And so George Weah still has that star quality amongst thousands of Liberians. They still love him. So he has a solid base that will go wherever he goes. Also, George Weah being the incumbent president has beaucoup resources. He has beaucoup resources. He has lots of resources. So people may argue and say, well, he has access to the national coffers. So he's taking some of the country's money to run his campaign. Well, you might say that, but until you can provide the actual proof. So George Weah has uh, resources to pull off the second round. He can fill every poster at every polling station. He can transport his people, his voters, to go and vote for him. He can feed his staff in whatsoever. So he has the kind of resources that Ambassador, former Vice President Joseph Boyka does not have. And George Weah has the advantage also of having been president before for a first term. So George Weah has been president for 6 years now. And our people, the Liberian people, sometimes they think a little differently. Some of them are saying that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government, which had Vice President Joseph Boyka as the vice president, they were there for 12 years. So already people are saying, let's give Weah his 12 years. But they're saying it as if to say that every president who gets there should have a second term. That's not what the Constitution says. The Constitution says, yes, you can go for a second term, but it doesn't say that you must get a second term. But that's how Liberians think. That's how ordinary Liberians think. They are saying, well, Ellen was there for 12 years, so why can we be there for 12 years? Let's give him his 12 years. So that's one way Liberians are thinking. Another way they're thinking too is I've spoken to a lot of people who are very educated and everything, saying, look, we believe in second chances, we believe in redemption. George Weah has been there for 6 years. He has done some things, but he has not done other things that he promised. So we would like to give him a second chance in the second term so that he can finish those things that he has started and do those things that he promised, but he has not done. So hopefully in his second term, if we gave him a second chance, hopefully he will be able to do those things in his second term. So these people are looking for redemption for George Weah, the one who gave him a second chance. And a lot of them that I spoke to who think this way are not necessarily huge fans of George Weah, but it's just saying, we believe in second chances. And also, because George Weah has been president for 6 years, so he has some tangible deliverables that he has produced that people can see and people can feel. For example, all of those low income housing projects that he put up in places like West Point, in some, in some in the Leeward counties, resonate with local people. So when you have people whose homes are being threatened by erosion, and some people they live in extremely porous and impoverished situation, and then the president comes and puts low income housing of concrete houses, flush toilet, and everything, it means a lot to those people. Some people are saying that the housing units in the West Point are tight, they're tiny, but the people in West Point who are benefiting from the housing unit watch them on video. They're dancing for George Weah, they're beating their chests in honor of George Weah. They're happy, they're grateful for the little he has done. I keep saying George Weah is putting up market buildings, uh, soccer stadiums in these impoverished communities as a form of entertainment for young people. He's also constructing parks where people can go and play, where kids can go and play. And this invincible park that he built at the old airfield strip is a huge one. People want to overlook it, but a lot of people that I've spoken to, it means a lot to them. So these are all tangibles and projects that George Weah has undertaken that have endeared him to some people. Now, unfortunately, Joseph Boyka has not been president, so he has not had the opportunity to actually be his own person and to do those projects and things that he wants to do for Liberia. He was only vice president to President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf for 12 years, and we know how African presidency go. Basically, presidencies around the world. The vice president is just the wingman for the president to help the presidents achieve his or her goals and agenda. The vice president doesn't necessarily has his own agenda that he implements. He's actually there to support the president. So you can understand or try to understand former Vice President Joseph Boyka when he says, I was a park race car. I think what he simply meant is that it was not my presidency. I didn't have that kind of voice and that kind of power and authority and resources to have done some really, really major policy projects that could have impacted the country in a big way. So VP Boyka is disadvantaged there. He's disadvantaged there because he has not been in a position to affect any major change to the project that people would not compare to President George Weah, who has been president for 6 years and who has a lot of projects to his name that people can see, like the military hospitals that he's putting up all over Liberia, are some of those projects that tend to place President Weah, like I said, in a more practical position for winning these elections. So I didn't want to do this, but I will, just in case. I will be giving my prediction as to who I think will win the elections on Tuesday. So, I said before, Vice President Boyka seems to be the favorite going into the elections. He's the underdog. People love the underdog. They love a comeback story. George Weah seems, to me, in my estimation, to be the most practical for winning the elections, meaning that even though people think that Boyka will win, but what do the numbers say? When you deconstruct what is happening to the elections, the different endorsement that everybody's getting endorsement. Boyka is getting some endorsements. Weah is getting some endorsements. But when you look at all of the variables, practically, I think incumbent President George Weah stands a better chance of winning the elections on Tuesday, of retaining his presidency. So I will be predicting that George Manning Opon Wekugbe Weah will win the second round of elections. Now, he may not win with significant numbers, but I think he will pull it off. And I think Vice President Joseph Boyka will come a close second. That's just my predictions. That's just my prediction, rather, based upon the practicality of what I'm seeing. So maybe I'm seeing something different from other people, but from what I'm seeing, from what I'm hearing, through the grapevines, from the different campaigns, what I'm seeing practically, I think George Weah is on on the road to his second term of the Liberian presidency. So that's that. And so as you can see, these are all pictures. This is the CDC. They had the end of their campaign this weekend as well. You can see the crowd. And this is the CDC crowd. I think they were at the CDC headquarters in Congo Town, where is that the Sycamore tree? I think that's the Sycamore tree. The Sycamore tree is the most famous tree in Liberia now because it is the CDC's landmark. That's the tree that everybody talk about. Apparently, when they go to meet CDC party officials, you sit under the tree to wait until you can be ushered in, or people sit under the tree, I think, to hang out with each other. to maybe to eat or whatsoever. But the sycamore tree is very important to the CDC, and the CDC has introduced the sycamore tree as an important or landmark in the Liberian political dispensation. So yes, I think that's the sycamore tree. So this is just one of the many pictures of the launching of the end of the CDC second round elections this weekend. This here is a picture of the end of the second round elections of the Unity Party. You can see the crowd. It's a huge crowd that turned out for the Unity Party as well as the CDC. So you can see the politics of the crowd. A lot of people turn out. But the question that I ask myself most of the time is, are these people different people, or are they the same people who come into all these campaigns? They go into the CDC campaign too to hang out under the sycamore tree, to get the CDC T-shirt, to get the beret, and maybe while the dead people can give them a little small thing to put in their pocket. And then when the United Party is having her launching or ending her campaign, the same people come there to hang out with the Unity Party team and get a T-shirt and get small change, get something to eat, and maybe just hang out with their friends, because this crowd cannot be 100% two separate group of Liberians that are coming here. It's most of them are the same Liberians, excuse me, who are just moving from campaign to campaign. So I call it the politics of the crowd. But let's see how it goes on Tuesday. Let's see with the United Party polling this kind of crowd, with the CDC polling that kind of crowd. Let's see what it translates to. Let's see who wins the elections. Even though I've given my prediction in favor of the CDC, I think the CDC will win the elections. But hey, with the politics of the crowd, let's see how it goes. I could be proven wrong. So the next story here I'm going to look at is the situation of a young man, Mr. Stanton Witherspoon. Stanton situation is a window case in the Truth and Reconciliation Transitional Justice language. We call it window case, meaning that is well known. It's a popular case. It's well known. It's like an open window. Everybody knows about it. So since Stanton's sentencing on November 2nd, a lot has been spoken about his situation. Every talk show, every newspaper, Liberian based and also international, they have spoken about Stanton's situation. So Stanton was sentenced on November 2nd by the Southern District Federal Court House in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, USA. He's going to be jailed for 3 years and 5 months. And what was really interesting too was that Stanton presented a check of $3.5 million to the judge. It was part of his fine, I think. And he wrote out this check, $3.5 million. I don't know whether it was a good thing. I don't know whether his lawyers advised him to do that. So, I don't know whether it was good that he was able to write out this huge amount, because what we're saying, again, I'm not a lawyer. And so I'm not going to pretend like I know much about the law. My knowledge of the law is basically a layman, but I have a slightly above average view of at least international human rights law, because I had to study it for the TRC work. But civil constitutional law and civil law, they're not really my forte or my area. But I don't know whether it was a good thing for Stanton to have written out this check, $3.5 million cashable. Usually what we see happen is that when people have to pay these kinds of fines or even bond. They go somewhere and they borrow the money from there, and the court can see where people are putting up the money for them on their behalf. They're borrowing the money, people standing a bond, or people putting down this money, vouching for them on behalf of them. But I've never seen before where a defendant or a person in that situation just writes out a check for $3.5 million. I don't know how it's going to go down for Stanton, but I would think that it makes him look more culpable. So when people say that you engage in wire fraud of more than that, all the fake diplomas and certificate that were given out to people in terms of these different schools, that the proceeds amounted to about more than $100 million. And then you're fighting a case, but you come to court and you write out a check for $2.5 million to the court. I don't know whether that was a good move on the part of Stanton, but hey, I'm sure his lawyers advise him. So Stanton has been asked to report to jail on January 31st, and he will be there for the next 3 years and 5 months, I think. But in the meantime, he has been given 90 days to give or make full disclosure of his entire wealth, all of his holdings, all of his finances, all of his properties. So he and his defense team have been advised by the judge. They have been given 90 days for Stanton to make full disclosure of all of his properties and holdings, because I think they're trying to take everything away from him. So this scandal was a massive one. It provoked worldwide search of individuals who may have benefited from this bogus and fake diploma scheme in all 50 states of the United States. And also, it was extended to Canada and the Caribbean. And it eventually led to the indictment of 25 persons, with 10 of them accepting a plea deal. And like I stated earlier, the entire scheme, they say what Stanton benefited or what the entire scheme produced in terms of monetary value was about $100 million. So they didn't say whether Stanton and his cohorts had the whole $100 million or not, but they were just estimating the prosecutor's office was estimating, that is the state of Florida and the United States of America was estimating that in total, all of the colleges that Stanton and his colleagues had that were involved in this fake diploma scheme, that the total financial amount that they might have benefited from the scheme was about $100 million. But my reason for mentioning Stanton Witherspoon's situation, like I stated earlier, was not to go into the entire case, the merit of the case. It was not to judge him either, because Stanton has gone through the entire legal process. He submitted himself to the rule of law here. In fact, they said he was very humble from beginning, from day one. He went in very humble. He was contrite. He's expressed his apology and his regrets for what happened, for what he did. And he has been tried and judged and sentenced. So I'm not judging Stanton. He's already been judged according to the laws of the United States of America. Me, I like to go look behind. I like to deconstruct issues behind the news. For me, what I want to say here today is that I'm looking at those hypocrites Those hypocrites, Liberians, who are like vultures, they were friends with Stanton. They benefited from him because I followed his case closely. So I read all of his character witnesses testimony. I followed his case closely. I am one of those who never liked Spoon TV because I felt Stanton didn't understand the media. He didn't understand how it worked, but he got some good money, and so he went into the media. I think Stanton was using the media as a means of making himself popular because I think he has presidential ambition, but that's his business. Um, Anybody has the right to have presidential ambition or any ambition for any political office in Liberia. Is their right. The Constitution of Liberia gave them that right. So that's not my issue. My issue is that the Spoon TV, uh, Spoon Network, that Spoon TV have been used as a medium of defamation of other Liberians. Sometimes decent Liberians were defamed on that show. The show was like a takedown. It was like an undertaker. I mean, somebody like me, oh, I mean, someone called me one day and said, Mas, you need to turn on Spoon TV. The guy your name there, this crazy dude is on Spoon making wild allegations. And, discussing it was completely ludicrous. It was shocking. Nobody from Spoon had contacted me. I know a lot of the panelists who know me personally, nobody reached out to me. Nobody contacted me from my side of the story, nothing. But here people were using this forum to mess with your hard-earned reputation. So, me being a trained journalist, I knew I took exception to that because you don't create a platform where and you facilitate people to come and defame other innocent people without even doing your homework. You don't know me from nowhere. You've never heard me engage in the impropriety before. I've never engaged in corruption before. I've never hurt anyone before. And then all of a sudden I become it is subject or a topic on your show. That was really miscalculated. So that was my issue with Stanton's Witherspoon and the way his Spoon TV, the style and the format. But notwithstanding, I believe in honesty and decency. I believe in the truth. I believe in fairness. In this Stanton situation, I see some people. It is shocking, it is disgusting, and they are despicable. People who benefited from this young man. He paid school fees for their children. He assisted them with transportation, even buying car for some of them when they didn't have transportation. Helped to pay some of their rent. Helped to pay their mortgages so that they don't lose their homes. Some of them, he helped to bury their loved ones when they needed to go to Liberia for family emergency. Stanton was there for them because he seems to be a kind, general person, seems to be. So Stanton was there helping some of these people, but like vultures, the vultures that just sit down and wait for their prey, wait for somebody to get in trouble, wait for somebody to get sick, and then when you think they're falling, and the vulture pounce upon them and eat away their flesh. Some of these people who are the worst critics of Stanton Witherspoon today are people who benefited from him. So my question to you all is, did you ask him where he took his money from? Some of you were friends with him. You knew him very well. You didn't think that, oh, he wasn't a criminal at the time when he was spending his money on you, bailing you out, helping you when you needed it. But then when he got in trouble and you're all over the place, scandalizing him more, trash talking him, and completely backstabbing him. People like you who benefited from Stanton are not the ones to be criticizing him. You should not be the one to be putting him down. You should leave it with people who were not part of anything, who didn't take money from Stanton, who didn't know that he was engaging in some unlawful act, you should leave it with those people to express themselves, not people like you who benefited from this young man. And then when he got in trouble, like vultures, you just stood there and you were ready and pounce on him. You trash talk him, you put him down, you leak out information about him, you completely backstab him. It was a clock and dagger game with you. He was your best friend, he was your children's godfather, he was bailing you out, he was his great humanitarian. He was a good person to you, but once he got in trouble, you're like vultures pounce upon his flesh. So I'm talking to the hypocrites. Liberians need to stop this behavior, this hypocrisy, this dangerous behavior of lying on people, of backstabbing people, of being disloyal and being ungrateful. Those of you who benefited from Stanton Weatherspoon and are today trashing him, are today saying all the worst things about him, you all are ungrateful. You need to keep quiet. You need to keep your mouth shut because you're not better than Stanton. You got no moral grounds to stand on to criticize him. In fact, people like you are really dangerous people. People should stay away from you. And I'm sure the young man has learned his lesson. People like you, people should stay away from you, who you will benefit from people, but then when they get in trouble and you plunge the dagger even deeper. That's the angle that I wanted to look at this Stanton Weatherspoon thing from because it's completely disgusting. It is shameful and woe on your ingrates. So my next story here is a feel-good story. This little girl picture you see on the screen is one of my favorite human beings. I call her baby Musu. This little girl on the picture, she was 6 years old in the St. Kizito Catholic School in Painesville, Liberia, when she took this picture. Musu Daffy Washington Gopia. Musu is a big woman now, she's married. And her name is Gopia, her husband's name is Gopia. Musu happens to be my youngest sister. She's my baby sister. She's the last girl of all of us. She's our baby. And I happen to have been Musu's surrogate mom, foster mom, whatever mom. But as big sister to Musu, I was also her mother. And I raised her right in my hands. In fact, Musu was with me when in the morning when she's going to school, I will put her uniform on her and then I will button her shirt, her blouse all the way up to her neck. I'm just old school. So I will poke it in Africa in the dry season. I will button this kid's blouse all the way up to her neck. I just wanted her to be neat and classic at all times. You see, I will braid her the cornrows and stuff like that. But this my baby Musu Daffy Washington. This kid has melted my heart. She is our family star little girl. If some of you think we are doing great things, this child is doing greater things and she will do greater things. Musu, every school this baby went, she graduated with honors. She went to high school, finished, graduated with honors. She went to college, graduated with honors. Musu graduated from college, I think, at the age of 22, I think, 21, 22. Graduated with honors. Never gave us trouble one day. Nobody ever came to complain, our baby sister, for nothing. And excellent. If there was any perfect child, a perfect sibling, baby sister, this is this child. So I'm highlighting Musu because Musu graduated last week with her master's in international development. Yes, baby Musu has a master's degree now. So this picture is the picture of me and Musu in Ghana during the war years. We fled to Ghana, and Musu was in school there at the Ghana Tieman boarding school, and I was there with her. We took this picture in Cantonment Residential, Airport Residential area where we used to live. I think Musu was 9 at the time now, or so I think 9 or 10 years old when we took this picture. But yeah, so this is Baby Musu mine. Baby Musu has a master's degree now in international relations. She just graduated 1 week ago. Here's the graduate, Mrs. Musu Daffy Washington Gopia. Musu is named after my father. My father's name is Samuel Daffa Washington, and Musu is Musu Daffy Washington. She looks just like my father. She's my father's photocopy. So I actually named her. I gave her that middle name. I'm like, you look just like Papa Musu, so I'm going to name you after him. Look at this little girl, sweet kid. Musu is a grown woman. I keep calling her little girl because for me, she will always be my little girl. She will always be my daughter. Look how beautiful she is. Smart as a whip. Yep. Musu has her master's. So she graduated with her BA, her Bachelor's of Arts. Musu is also a CEO. She started her own company 4 years ago called K3 Events. It is an entertainment business, and Musu is extremely successful. She has huge clients. USAID is one of her major clients. The United States Aid for Africa, USAID, is one of Musu's clients. This is a sample of Musu's business. So Musu does entertainment, like she's a wedding planner as well. She plans weddings and execute people weddings. She does balloons. She decorates the halls and the tables, the center table. She also provides the desserts and all those kinds of wonderful things. But Musu keeps growing her business. So Musu's business is multidimensional. So she's not just doing one aspect of the entertainment business. She does rentals, tables, chairs, and USAID had asked Musu to please be part of their program where she would train other young people like her who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to enter business, so that because Liberians, everybody wants to wait for government, everybody depends on government. And so the United States, the US Embassy contacted Musu to get her a contract, and she was one of those who was one of the trainers to train other young people to do what she does. Musu did all of this. She does all of this. As a matter of fact, they call her the balloon boss because this child makes miracle with the balloon. And Musu just learned it. This is not something that she learned in school. She was self-taught. She taught herself how to do these things, and she started her company. Her company is called K3 Events. K3 Events, yeah. Here, Musu. So Musu just completely blew my mind this past 2 weeks. In just the space of 1 week, this child was able to graduate with her master's and then go to Ghana to be part of an international uh, entrepreneurship conference that was held in Accra, Ghana, where she was invited to participate and to also lecture and share her experience as a young CEO to other people in the room. So Musu said, she was probably amongst one of the smartest persons there in terms of accomplishment. So even though Musu has a master's, she has a business that is like, I think, 5 years old. She's thriving, but notwithstanding, Musu said the people who were in the room with her were doctors, were lawyers, were big-time business people who have been in business for years and years, million years. And here's this young girl coming out of war, this child. It's a war child. Musu was 6 years old. I was running with her every time they, fire gun here, they shoot rocket here. I was running with the child all over the place. Look where she is now. So this is Musu here at this international conference in Ghana. And the conference is called uh, the Ghana Event Industry Conference 2023. So apparently they hold this conference every year in Ghana. And Musu, as founder and CEO of K3 Events, a planning and event planning and entertainment Liberian-owned business, was invited to be a part of this conference. So this young girl just graduated her master's week before the last, and all of last week she was in Ghana attending this conference, representing Liberia. And Musu, I'm just so proud of this kid. That's my baby sister. I'm just so proud of her. She's going places. Uh, Musu is bold. She's brilliant. She is just driven. Musu is kind. She's quiet. Classic young girl. Peaceful. You don't hear Musu and people in yo-yo. She doesn't fall out with people. She's respectful for everybody. And Musu is my wing person. Musu is my baby sister, but she's my wing person. If I need things done, all I gotta do just text this poor child soon in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock at night. The child will be sleeping. I will text her. She will wake up in the morning and read my text, and I got instruction for her. Musu, can you do this for me? Musu, do this for me. And only thing I get from her is say yes. Okay. Okay, Sister Masa, what do you want me to do? Did you say you want to do this? Should I do this? Musu, my child, as your favorite fairy godmother, may you continue to succeed beyond your wildest dream. May you be bigger than even me, your sister and your mom. May you be 5 times bigger than me. May you soar. May you be like the eagle. Continue to soar to your greatest height. We love you. You make our family look good. We are proud of you. You are every family's dream daughter, dream sister, dream mom, dream everything. We cannot tell you enough how much we love and appreciate you. I am so glad, Demus, to be sharing DNA with you. You are my inspiration. This is a picture of Musu at the conference. Musu is in a red dress. And this is Mrs. Musu Daffy Washington Gopia and her beautiful family. Her husband, Mish Gopia, Musu met Mish in college. Musu met Mish in college, and they married, and they have their 3 children. The little girl name is Princess Leia. That's Musu 2.0. And of course, the boy in the middle is Courage. And the older boy is Musu's first son. His name is Mitch. I love this family. It's one of my favorite Liberian family. So Musu, this young girl, has been able to pull off going to school, listening to people. She took advice. She didn't challenge us, her older siblings. She worked with us, so all of us love her. Musu now eat our money, eat our money. She died eating our money. So now I can tell her, say, Musu, I'm so happy I don't have to pay school fees anymore. In fact, I'm eating her money now. But all of us, all of our siblings doted upon Musu. All her sisters and brothers have been so good to Musu. We love her. We doted upon her. We spoiled her. We gave Musu everything she needed. Paid school fees for her. Bought her clothes. Did everything she needed because she was such a sweet baby sister. Musu was able to go to school uninterrupted. She went to school, finished. She went to college, finished. She met her husband in college. They got married. And the both of them have their 3 children together. And they're giving their 3 children the life that they deserve. Musu, Uncle Mish Gopia, Princess Leia, Courage, Micho. This is Auntie Masa. This is Grandma Masa. Sending love to you guys always. And may God continue to bless your wonderful family. With that, I have come to the end of the Masa Washington show for today. Thank you so much for joining me and thank you for being with me. And I look forward to seeing you on Sunday for our 5th episode of the Massa Washington Show. Thank you very much and goodbye.